It is Friday, the 24th of July, 2026, and in this video, I would like to share with you an article that I found pretty interesting. For anyone who doesn't know, I get quite interested, motivated to do my best to try and understand some of the big shifts looking to shape the world. And that can be anything from technology through to the financial space, through to health, through to food, growing, independence. Those pillars that make up everyday life, those big shifts, I like to do my best to understand what they mean fundamentally for you and I and our communities. So in today's video, I would like to share with you an article that was published just last month, so June 2026, from the World Economic Forum, talking about AI in the workplace and its potential effects on entry-level work, and fundamentally how AI looks to most probably shape the work life for you and I. And I'm going to pull up this article and kind of dive into it a bit more and then give you some of the key takeaways. Now, the World Economic Forum, they are, for anyone who doesn't know, they are made up of many people, organizations, from business owners, uh, royalty, um, lots of famous people, uh, politicians, lots of relationships with government, even though they are technically an NGO, non-government officials, they have huge influence on the government. And whenever I see certain policy change or I look towards what maybe the government is telling me, I often look a little bit further. I do a little digging and I look at the World Economic Forum and I look at some of their articles, their papers, their agendas, and because for anyone who is not that aware, I first of all became aware of the World Economic Forum back in 2020. And when I started to learn around their huge influence around COVID, the lockdowns, and how that basically continues to shape modern life as we know it today. So from 2020, I have continued to follow them and really try and understand what they're talking about, the direction they seem to be influencing people and the world. So when they publish articles like the one I'm about to share with you, and especially around jobs and work life and the work environment, I find that quite valuable. Regardless if you agree or disagree with them, wherever you stand with these type of organizations, I think because of their influence and their power, in my opinion, I think it's good. I think it's a smart move to at least understand and have that awareness. So then you can do what you like with that information. So with that being said, I've got my notes here, and even though I do use AI more and more these days to help me, get my head around information and help me do lots of things, I am still an advocate for pen and paper because for me, that connection, writing, note taking, I think is so powerful, and also the connection with the brain. I, for one, don't want to lose that. I'm still pretty old school, and so I will, even though I will use AI to help me understand and process and summarize some of these deep articles, like the one I'm going to share with you, I also love to write notes, take notes, because for me, I think there's some real power in that. So I am going to first of all talk about the Future of Jobs Report 2025. Now I'm going to share my screen and jump over to it. So hopefully you can see this now. So every couple of years, the World Economic Forum come out with their Future of Jobs report. And in there, they do huge deep dives on really the future of the work environment. Now, I did take a note here where I saw that, yeah, here we are. Their insights. The sources are from over 1,000 leading global employers, representing more than 14 million workers across 22 industries and 55 economies from around the world. So I think that's a pretty big data set. So whatever this data tells us, I think it's worth paying attention to, in my opinion. I think, especially for the future of work, the future of jobs, a lot of people have this concern around will AI replace my job? How will that look moving forward? Well, I think using some of these sources are a great step in the right direction or a great data set to use for you to make your own decisions moving forward. So you've got the jobs report going back every couple of years or so. Now, I don't believe the 2026 one is out yet. I haven't actually seen it officially published. I see people talking about it here and there, but I haven't actually come across the actual official document. So whether or not it is coming out or they're going to hold on to the next one, I'm not entirely sure. But regarding the 2025 one, now there's loads of information. I'm specifically just wanting quickly to pay attention to this section, which talks about the fastest growing and declining jobs by 2030. Now, 2030 is quite an infamous year. You will see more and more if you're unaware, you'll see 2030 dotted around everywhere. And there are certain agendas and goals and aims set by some of these huge, powerful organizations that how they want the world to look by the year 2030. So, first of all, I just want to talk about some of the fastest growing jobs. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but specifically, I want to talk about some of the top ones because I think these are really important. You've got big data specialists, data, who controls our data? There is so much information out there now. Data is so valuable. So understanding the pros and cons to who controls data and really all that whole data space, I think is huge, and it's only going to get bigger as we move into more of a tech dominant world. We've got fintech, so financial technology engineers, the rise of CBDCs, cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the way that central banks and also traditional banking are adopting more, obviously, digital infrastructure and what that can mean for you and I. And then also number three, AI and machine learning specialists. This one is huge in my opinion because the article is very much linked to AI in the workplace. And then it goes on to talk about software and application developers. So obviously a lot of this is predominantly all technology around data and specifically AI. So we can see these are some of the biggest, most influential uh, areas, look at or the fastest growing areas. And then so on the flip, let's look at some of the declining jobs by 2030. Now, again, this is the World Economic Forum. It doesn't mean this is actually going to happen. However, based on the information where they pull their information from, I think it's worth at least paying attention to these charts and this data. So we're looking at postal service clerks, we're looking at bank tellers and related clerks, we're looking at data entry clerks, we're looking at cashiers, ticket clerks, admin roles, and accounting, bookkeeping, etc. So again, this is typically people either like data entry, dealing with calls, inputting data, handling data. A lot of this can be automated now, and I think we're going to see a big push in this. So it doesn't surprise me that there are some of the top jobs that look or that are declining by 2030. So we've looked at some of the fastest growing and the fastest declining jobs by 2030. I think this is like a nice bridge, a nice segue into the article, which I want to share with you. Now, I'm not going to go through it all, but one thing I do like the use of ChatGPT or AI in general is I can take some of these big documents that are pretty text heavy. They've got pretty in-depth language, terminology that I am not traditionally educated on. Now, I do like when I have the time to sit down and do my best to read through this, take notes, write stuff down and educate myself and understand the language. However, for many of us, we're quite busy. So these are great examples. And what I have done is I've taken this document, fed it into my ChatGPT, and I have asked ChatGPT to explain it to me, break it down for me, and explain it to me in beginner language, like a level one and level two, more of an intermediate language, because I love to try and at least absorb and understand the language more and more, because I think this is very important to become educated on this stuff. So the article is called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Entry-Level Work, a framework for safeguarding and reinventing early career pathways. And this is the Insight report, literally that was just published last month, June 2026. Now, what I am going to do is I'm not going to go through all of this, but this I will link this in the video. And also, I will then, what I have done is I have created a a download, 9 key takeaways of the biggest takeaways of this article, so that it breaks it down into everyday language for you to go away if you're interested in this type of stuff. The key takeaways, which will take you a couple of minutes to read, you can revisit it time and time again. Because for me, it's taking something like this, understanding it, breaking it down, and then presenting it in everyday, easy to understand language. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then I'm just going to start going off about some of the points I took down. Now, regarding this article, I wanted to check the sources where they actually get this information from. Now, the sources, it states in the article, more than 9,000 entry-level workers from around 48 countries, based in collaboration with PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a huge global accounting firm. They also took data from the global labor markets and over 200 business leaders, educators, policymakers, and AI experts. So again, I think regardless of you agree with this stuff, I think it's important to just have a overall understanding, because then you can make better decisions for you, your families, and your lives. So fundamentally is, how is AI affecting work life and jobs, our job security? So this is a more specific, let's say, semi-deep dive into one of the fastest growing job areas within the future of jobs report. So I'm mindful of people's time here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to dive into my notes and I'm just going to get through them. I have got 9. I'm going to talk about them now, but again, you can get them in shorter form in the PDF article that I will link with the video. So fundamentally, at first glance, it's not another AI report, but how we prepare ourselves for the future of work, where AI will be so heavily integrated into everyday life and the workplace. So, number one, AI is changing jobs, not just replacing them. So rather than replacing jobs overnight, AI increasingly is taking individuals' tasks within the jobs. So even though no doubt people will lose uh, jobs depending on what it is, AI at the moment is automating those mundane tasks. So one of the key takeaways here is jobs are not disappearing overnight, they are evolving. How can people learn to work with AI to outsource some of those mundane tasks? So that was one thing they saw, is that people may be doing data entry and still working with people. How can they use the AI to handle that data entry while they can put more energy and time into some of the other areas? I think that is really important. So yes, AI is changing jobs, not just replacing them. How can we think and how can we act around that key insight? Because for me, I think, well, if AI is going to be taking X amount of my workload, how can I position myself? How can I empower myself and build those skills so that AI doesn't actually replace my job? Number two, entry-level jobs are changing the fastest. So I thought this was really, really interesting. So I'm just going to read out what I wrote down here. Traditionally, entry-level beginner roles were where people learn the foundations. Now AI handles all of those foundations, the real beginner tasks. So the question really goes, the concern is, well, if AI is handling all those beginner job roles, like you start at a suit like apprentice, beginner level, whatever job, whatever industry, you got to learn the basics. And then you naturally build your skills and you got the stepping stones, you got the skill pathway. Well, if AI is now handling like step one, step two, step three, then how do entry level employment, how do entry level jobs, how do people get further up the skill ladder if AI is basically taking over, step one, step two, step three? So that was a really, I think, really one of the biggest insights actually, and one of the key takeaways is what does that mean? Because how can we actually continue and become, future experts and leaders if AI is effectively beating us and doing a better job than us at those entry level jobs? So one of the key statements around that was businesses will need to rethink how they train and develop future talent, which is interesting to see how that will actually play out. Moving on to number three, experience is becoming more valuable than information. So yeah, I thought this was so interesting. There's so many good points here. 20 years ago, information or access to information was a huge advantage. Only some of the smartest or most wealthiest people in the club, so to speak, had access to that knowledge. Whereas fast forward now, AI is disrupting that. You can get access to knowledge at a click of a button. So that is a huge disruption. And one of the kind of the big takeaways around that was it shifts the value towards judgment, human intuition, experience, and knowing when AI is right versus wrong. So even though AI has access to all the knowledge, and maybe we don't need to spend so long educating ourselves and researching and studying all this type of knowledge, because AI can give it to us like that, it, it it's it's shining a spotlight, I believe, on humans and our natural talents to basically step in and use judgment around that information. Because if we have knowledge at our fingertips, then it's down to us what we do with that. So one of the main points was information is becoming less valuable versus knowing how to apply it. I thought that was really important. Moving on to number four, learn to work alongside AI. Now, this taps back to what I was saying last week in my video about the AI and human relationship, because some people see AI as the enemy. I think AI is here, it's not going anywhere, and it's only going to become more involved in everyday life. So, what does that human AI relationship look like? And the article I shared in the community last week really spoke about, okay, well, maybe AI can handle the back end, all the huge data entry and the more admin, mundane, repetitive tasks. Human beings can be on the front end. And we can, this follows on a bit from the last point. How do we work with that information? If AI is the workhorse, it's down to us what we do with that information. So a great example they mentioned in the article was saying about a calculator. What that did is when the calculator was invented, it basically gave mathematicians to outsource that repetitive task of constant calculations to basically solve bigger problems. So fast forward to today, AI can handle a lot of those repetitive tasks, and it can leave us as humans to basically tap more into our human powers and look for that relationship between humans and AI. Now, look, we're in what, 2026? Let's see where we are by the year 2030, because this could all have worked out really well, or it could have gone the other way. So let's see how this AI human relationship grows moving forward. Another big point is human skills become even more valuable. As AI becomes better at technical and repetitive work, human skills become increasingly important. So, similar to the last couple, but slightly different. The report highlights qualities in humans, and this is talking on what James mentioned about critical thinking, the power of thought, and the questions we ask. The attention will go more into how humans can use critical thinking, communication, emotional intelligence, curiosity, ethical judgment based on what the AI is giving us. And a point here is different to automate. Yeah, beg your pardon, these are difficult to automate as they rely on human relationships, context, and experience. So these human qualities at this moment, they are hard to automate, whereas humans have the upper hand with these qualities. So can we lean into these qualities more and more and then use AI to do more of the mundane, repetitive tasks? Moving on to a couple of last points here. Businesses need to redesign career pathways. Companies cannot remove junior work and expect future leaders to appear. Such a good point. I never ever thought about that until literally 2 days ago when I read the article and started going through these notes. Because again, if we are, if AI is basically taking away all those entry level jobs, how do we expect people to progress? You tell me. Uh, it's something I never thought about, but as soon as I read it, I was like, oh yeah, of course, it makes so much sense. So some of the key takeaways from the article mentioned how humans, entry level workers, working with customers directly, learning from experienced colleagues, and then interpreting the results. So again, AI handling the mundane, and then you and us as humans using our human consciousness to better handle that. And then it goes on to say, if approached correctly, AI could aid faster learning by handling the mundane, repetitive workload. Now, at the moment, we don't have, AGI, artificial general intelligence, is not yet publicly out there. I'm sure it is out there. I don't doubt that. AGI, artificial general intelligence, where literally AI can pretty much do everything, and that can definitely look quite scary. However, at the moment, the relationship, I think, if handled correctly, can be can be very positive. And I am still being optimistic. I think there's a lot of great people in the world that can really help and shape more conscious led AI. And moving on, I want to talk about education needs to evolve. Many educational systems still prepare students for a world of memorizing. That's such a good point. Again, like at school, it was always about learning, memorizing. Goes on to say how future education should emphasize or put an emphasis around solving problems, asking better questions, working alongside AI, and creativity and teamwork. Knowledge still matters. Learning how to think may matter even more because if we've got access to all these data sets, we don't need to spend the next 5 years learning a subject when we can get it at a click of a button. But it's down to us what we do with that information, how we can ask powerful questions and shape this power, this access to all this vast data, how we can use that to shape the outcome, be it in our own lives, in our businesses. I think that is, I mean, there's so many good points. So definitely, if you're interested in this stuff and you don't just want to hear me like waffle on, then check out the article and click the links and dive into it. Last 2 points here. Learning does not stop after school. One of the biggest messages from the report. The days of learning one profession and doing it unchanged for 40 years are likely to disappear. There's an emphasis on lifelong learning. learn to continuously update our knowledge and skills as the world evolves. That's so, I think, well, for me, I love to learn. I have this drive, this motivation to try and understand where the world is headed. So whenever I stop learning, whenever I stop reading and trying to understand things, I start to get agitated. I can get a bit anxious because the world is evolving and changing so quickly. At least it feels like that these days. For me, I think to have that habit to be a like a lifelong learner, I think is really important. And specifically around this with AI, the evolution of AI. I mean, an app is developed and AI technology just keeps growing week by week. It's crazy. Learning about, large language models, learning about AI agents. It's like boom, boom, boom. ChatGPT, Claude, it's the evolution is fast. It's very fast paced. So instead of just thinking or having the mindset that you can learn one thing and then that's me set for the next 20, 30, 40, whatever years, adopting more of a lifelong learning approach because things are changing. And if we can have access to this data at a click of a button, in my opinion, I think it's quite important to adopt this mentality. And these are things that I really want to build in the community more and more. Because for me, when I have the time, I love diving into this and understanding the trends, the changes in the world, but to build that into the community so we can learn because it might not be as interesting to you or you might not have the time. But if we can create these videos and share these insights, then I think it helps. It gives us all a bit more of an upper hand in such a fast-paced, changing world. And then finally, there is opportunity, not just risk. The report recognizes genuine challenges, but also highlights significant opportunities. For instance, AI could help us remove repetitive work, increase productivity, create new job categories, focus on higher value work, help smaller businesses compete. Fantastic. I love that. And also, then really just going on to the kind of the final really key takeaway from this point is the future is not automatically better or worse, but it depends on how individuals, businesses, and society choose to respond. So the world is changing. AI, it would appear, looks to have a huge impact and influence on how we live our lives, how we work, how we interact with one another. I see, and this is the whole one of the big reasons behind my kind of my angle within the community, why I wanted to set up this community with Nick and James, is to bring that awareness to some of the big things looking to shape the world. So this, I think, really hits the nail on the head because things are changing, things are evolving, and there is great opportunity. And yes, there are challenges, but I think if we approach this open-minded and we apply a lot of, you know, Nick's Nick's modalities, Nick's tools and techniques for staying grounded, energized, nourished, and regulated, and then we adopt James's mindset and really, that performance side of things, that coaching that James offers within the community, that I think is a really great foundation for then taking on this knowledge, understanding it, building awareness, and then deciding how you would like to take that and basically move forward. So what I want to do is I want to quickly just share with you the article. So I think you can see this. So understanding AI in the future of work, 9 key takeaways to help you live well in a changing world. Now, if any of you are listening to this on audio and you can't actually see the article, you can find the link, the attachment in the comments section below. And yeah, so in here, it just goes through what I basically explained, but this is a more concise, less garbled version of 9 key takeaways. And it's great because you can just sit with it and basically read it in your own time. And yeah, basically, I just go on to say, so what does this mean for us? And I just talk about the different areas that we are building in the community. Nick will help us build stronger minds and healthier bodies through breath work, movement, and nervous system regulation. James will help us develop clearer thinking, better decision making, and practical ways to take meaningful action. Myself, Rich, will help us understand the bigger picture by exploring topics such as AI, the future of work, money, technology, food independence, and many of the major trends shaping the world around us today. That really drives me, and I think that is a powerful combination. And I think, well, I know for a fact that I love the idea of sharing more of this in the community. So, bit of a long video, but I hope there was some value in that. Please give me your feedback. I would love to know your thoughts on everything I shared. And would you like to look more into this? Are there other areas that we can look and do more research into? Because AI and the workplace, I think, is a huge trend, a huge shift shaping the world that will affect everyone, whether we like it or not. And for me, it's looking for the challenges, the potential opportunities, and how we can use that to shape a great life. So I'm going to leave it there. Have a great week ahead. Give me your feedback, and I can't wait to catch up with you guys soon. See you in the next video. Stay tuned and have a great week ahead. I'll see you later, guys.